We're coming to the final part of our event today, and that's our panel. So I'm really happy to have with me now Peter Fahd, the CEO of RCT Solutions, Peter Tillmann, Chief Scientist, Silicon PV at ICO Solar Lab in Europe. ICO is one of the few companies that really operates a research lab in Europe. And we have Radovan Kopeček once again with us. Everyone, please switch on cameras. Am I seeing Peter? Yes, there he is. Wonderful. Hey, Peter. Cool. So let me just open actually my outline here. 1 second. Okay, so let's maybe what I really would like to do is that we talk about, so what's the next big thing in solar cell module technologies? We had these 4 days here now, and of course, depending on where the focus of a company is, the company emphasizes that this is the way to go, and if it is already in the market, it will stay there for a while and get even bigger. So let's maybe start, because you're all in one part or the other active in research or helping up to set up manufacturing or even manufacturing. What's the technology you spend most of your time these days, actually? And that, I think, with the composition of the panel, that's obviously a little bit different. But maybe Peter, because I think you have many different clients around the world, and there's a lot of different wishes for what they want to do. So Peter, so what keeps you busy in terms of technology?
Yes, so
thanks a lot for
Oh, sorry. Then I always say
right.
Peter RCT first, and then Peter ICO next. Sorry.
Okay, so thanks a lot, first of all, to be here. I mean, from our RCT solutions, we're active in 26 countries in about more than 40 projects. So mostly it keeps us busy in integrated technology approach, where people want to have local production, ingot, wafer, cell, module. If you ask me about cell technology, then it's a little bit mixed. So currently, mostly we can say TOPCon. Especially European customers are also looking at back contact structures to differentiate a little bit from the mainstream module design. We have US customers who are also looking at more into PERC because of this IP struggle, what we currently have, and the less complexity of a PERC structure. In India, we can say currently mostly is going into TOPCon. We have limited requests for heterojunction as well. In USA, there was a lot of requests in 2 years, but now it's calming down a little bit, we can say, about heterojunction. And for modules, it depends. It's a mix of what is useful in the market, residential, commercial type of products. But typically Western companies, they want to have to distinguish a little bit from Chinese players and own European, Western type of new module design, new technology, which mostly is back contact, because that differentiates much more as compared to heterojunction from TOPCon.
Okay, so we dive deeper later. So now Peter from ICO.
sorry about the confusion with the Peters here. Yeah, so at ICO, we are strong believers in the back contact solar cell technology, of course, and this is clearly the main focus of our work.
Okay. Rado, you have also some eggs in the basket.
Yes, I'm acting always as a back contact believer, but of course, the business at the moment is somewhere else for us, because we are doing technology transfer ramp up. So at the moment is certainly, as Peter said, TOPCon in India, but I'm quite sure that also in India, people are discussing at the moment also the upgrade of their TOPCon line. So there are already discussions about back contact there as well. But at the moment, certainly TOPCon, but more and more requests for back contact.
Okay, cool. Then let's dive a little bit into back contact. I think we spent already quite some time on TopCon, on heterojunction over the last 3 days. So let's go to the industry and to ICO. I think we had ICO already present and saw what they are doing. Peter, ICO, you started seriously working on back contact technology quite a while ago. So you've been one of the leading pure cell manufacturers for a long time in the field of PERC. Then you moved to back contacts also and came up with a module product. So what was the driver at that time? Because at that time it was mostly SunPower. I think Maxion didn't exist at that time. It was SunPower with their rather high, at least at that time, high cost technology, and a lot of people sort of were really looking at them with a sort of wow in their face when they looked at efficiency, but a little bit also like a wow when they look at cost. So so how did you decide actually to really put your eggs into this module BC basket?
Yes. So as you said, like historically, ICO was more of a cell manufacturer, but I think we were always proud of our focus on innovation, and we were, I think, also pioneers in commercializing the PERC cell production. And at some point, I think the strategy we were looking at is, okay, we want to diversify more from being just a cell manufacturer to a module manufacturer. And with the focus on innovation, so the question was, okay, like on which technology should we bet? And if you look at where you can find the highest efficiencies, I think back contact is the way to go. So this brought them together, all ingredients to say we want to look at this technology, we want to push it forward to differentiate. When we enter the module market, we want to differentiate from the competition, and this then led to our focus on the back contact technology.
And then during the development process, so what would you highlight as you're also in the research field as a most important development steps, noteworthy development steps towards what is now the leading commercial product in the market in terms of efficiencies?
Yes. So the ICO ABC technology is based on passivated contacts for both polarities. So I think one key ingredient is to get good passivating contacts for both polarities N and P. Then, of course, the structuring of back contact, I think, was always a challenge. And we decided that the lasers is the way to go. So getting very good control of the laser processes involved in forming the structures on the backside, I think this is really the key technology to back contact cells that are cost efficient. And of course, metallization is a challenge because of the consumption of silver if you do classical screen printing. And also ICO decided here to innovate with copper plating to avoid the high cost of silver consumption with the ABC cells.
Okay. Maybe Radovan, you've been also very early on working with it. You had your Zebra technology out quite a while. We've also seen SPIC talking about that, but you've now also adapted so that was without passivated contacts. You've also now adapted to passivated contacts. So what changed from then to now? So how was the evolution for your research on back contact technology?
Yes, thank you for the question. So we are really extremely proud that we more or less like brought the low-cost IBC to China with SPIC, because I mean at that time in 2018, 19, the competition was with PERC. So the challenge was, as already also explained by SPIC, to bring a high efficient cell, 24%, with low cost processes. So we started with Zebra, and the interesting thing there is that with the Zebra cell we set more or less a seed for all the low cost contact processes out there, because we cooperated at that time already with DR laser and did the patterning, and we were also involved in the stringing of Zebra. So more or less why now IBC is more or less growing very fast there is because these processes have been developed on a very simple structure like Zebra. But of course, at the moment, Zebra is not powerful enough. We have to go to so-called, we call it polyzebra. And there's a similar technology, what Peter just was reporting about, only that we are relying on screen printing technology. And I believe that also with the zero busbar technology and people will get more get rid of silver, the bifaciality will increase naturally.
Okay, Peter, RCT. So I think so you've been focusing usually on what, of course, your customers want, and that's mostly TOPCon, as you said, a little bit of PERC still in the US because of these IP issues. So how have you been looking and preparing also for back contact technology?
I mean, if you look at back contact and as compared as a next evolutionary step or on top of TOPCon, I mean, we have two approaches. One approach is like we have the knowledge on TOPCon, and then we are, as a next step, improve it over to back contact, passivated back contact structures, and that's a logic. That's a logic. So if I talk to my clients, and as I said, all of them have the wish to distinguish. And of course, the back contact module is a very distinguishing, it's a very clear distinguishing factor from a pure TOPCon module. So, and for them, it's easier to understand. I have this TOPCon process flow, I have this machinery, and then I have to add some more steps, but more or less the same like the TOPCon process. And they can accept because they believe that will fly. If I have to tell them, oh, perhaps as the next evolutionary step, we have to go into heterojunction, then for me it's super complicated to explain, because I say, okay, that's a total new machinery, that's a total new approach, and my clients don't wish to make this big jump. So for customers who are saying, okay, if you set up new factories in giga scale and it's already challenging enough, and if we want to have an innovation, it should not be too much away from TOPCon. This is a requirement for my clients. And from the module perspective, Michael, it looks different. So all the techs which my customer want to see, they're tech with back contact technology. Heterojunction is really difficult to sell, because I mean, most customers starting with a module line first, then they integrate it to cell. For them, it's easy to purchase first TOPCon cells, and then later on. But if they have to source heterojunction cells because they start first with a module factory, it's also tricky. So for me, mostly heterojunction, only if I have customer says from day zero, heterojunction, that's it. Okay, please. But most of customers are more in this evolutionary type of approach.
But when you're talking to them already, are they having that on their mind? I think so. Maybe, okay, this whole TOPCon evolution went much faster than everyone thought. At PERC, it was in the end the same. But you know, I think if we look at, we discussed it also with Pusant yesterday, that ITRPV's numbers, which is more or less what the industry was kind of voicing to ITRPV, and that's what's reflected there. Was that this year, I think it would be still not the majority, and now we're at 70% or whatever in terms of TOPCon. Next year, PERC is almost gone, unlike in those markets where there are IP issues. And so so could that happen actually with the back contact the same, or because now everyone has has invested obviously so much into technology, and we have an overcapacity, right? So I think all the machines all the lines are underutilized, and there's probably money for everything, and that's mostly restructuring rather than expansion. And so because at that time when they invested, at least maybe not the big ones, but even the big ones, they were not necessarily directly thinking about moving so quickly to the next technology because they simply had to differentiate and maybe also to get through cost out of this overcapacity trap. But so what do you see there?
You ask me, Michael?
Yeah. Yeah, right. Because I think so. So
Okay.
when your customers started, hardly anyone had that probably on their radar. Now they do see that they need something different, because I think everyone has Top Gun, and so it's this commodity. But all the others who did not have it, could they change it so easily? Because I think that was also the problem with PERC at some point, right? Because some might have had the space actually to do these few additional machines, but many didn't.
We have to analyze very accurately. I mean, if you talk about Chinese sector, by this overcapacity, this overinvestment, I feel the Chinese innovation machinery has a trouble now. Because I mean, in the past, these innovation cycles were super fast. And that was always a key goal, to jump over competitors, to making cutting edge approach. But now in this economic situation of big Chinese players, it's not working anymore. This is not suitable anymore. There's no money for this. Now they're more, if they invest, perhaps cheap, capex, low capex. So that means now Western players, it's very astonishing, Michael, for me. They have now the opportunity, if they start, because all Western players are starting new. They have now the opportunity to go into the next innovation cycle, which the Chinese sector cannot easily do, apart from companies like ICO and some other big players. So that's a chance for them. They see it as a chance to go in the next innovation layer, mostly driven by those new Western players. They believe on it. So it will not like before, like suddenly all lines will be converted in back contact. Definitely not, because that is not what will work and not healthy. But on the other side, all these Western players want to have an innovation line, 1 gigawatt, 2 gigawatt of innovation line, to be prepared for the next innovation cycle. But it will not be this fire, this storm, and suddenly all TopCon lines will disappear and will be back contact or heterojunction. Definitely not. But for Western player, really, it's astonishing to say it's now a big chance, really a chance, the only chance perhaps, to compete with Chinese players. That they're going into this innovation approach, but not full capacity.
If we stay a little bit on the market side, so I think now that we're sort of moved in this this direction, so the market is truly interesting, of course, because of course the world is defragmenting, so there's more barriers. So that means we have more local markets also popping up. The US is sort of trying to get fully reliant, Europe half-heartedly, but India also very, very pushy. So what are we seeing here? We're also seeing, interestingly, Chinese companies starting to cooperate. So I think Huasan, for example, teamed up with a European player to SolarBee to set up a factory in Italy. We're seeing something like Futurasan, also Italian, Chinese, somewhat setting up in Italy. Some of the Chinese players are in the US because that's at the moment probably one of the few places you can make money selling modules. And the more you are in the market, the better. Of course, everyone is also now afraid of the political situation. So some companies who set up something already sold it again. So there's quite some dynamic, and also what we're seeing, that some of the big companies who were only selling modules in the past, they are doing now OEM. They are even offering their cells that was unheard of for some of the big players. So what are we seeing? So and I think Eiko coming from the cells, Peter Tillmann. So what's your strategy here in this totally chaotic and very tough business environment in which we are?
Yes. So I think when Solar Lab was founded around 3 years ago, I think one of the idea was to bring also manufacturing to Europe within Eiko. But I think like with the current market situation, it's really difficult to make these numbers work in Europe. I think right now there are no heavy barriers between China and Europe. So I think this might change in the future. This is I don't know, very speculative to say anything in this direction, I would say. But we as Eiko are at the moment at least mostly focused on the manufacturing side in China. But as you mentioned, we are also cooperating with other companies and offering modules under different brand names as an OEM manufacturer. If we think that it's for the specific market valuable for us.
But I think so also completely new things pop up. So I think recently, for example, Trina won in the Innovation Fund in Europe. And what was the technology? We're talking about heterojunction. So it was nothing you would have associated Trina with, in at least when you followed most of their appearances at events or their products. So how is this whole difficult market environment steering up the segment, and might this be also a nucleus for something really new and accelerating things? I don't know who wants to take it, Rado.
Yes, maybe there are two things that you mentioned, Michael. So we have been organizing the bifacial workshop in Zhuhai this year, and I wanted to go there already for a couple of years, but there were some difficulties in the past, as you know, and I was really amazed that now there are new alliances being formed, that Eiko, Longi, Maxeon, so TCL now joining forces and announcing that actually in 2027-28 will be a switch from TopCon to BackContact, and now together working on this technology. So this is one thing. This is what I never saw before, but of course in crisis times you somehow have to form alliances. And the second thing that you mentioned, yes, this is really striking that now Chinese companies are entering to Europe, like Trina to Spain, DAS Solar wants to go to France, and Futurasan, it's not a Chinese company, but they are having some production in China. So there are many things happening. What I observe rather in US, that they are backing up, that Trina is not involved in US anymore so strongly because some political situation. But I think it's a big chance now in Europe to team up with Chinese players. That I mean, European producers would be stupid not to take advantage of such a movement. And so there are teams building up in technology and teams building up also globally. This is what I observe, and I'm very happy about it because this is how it should be.
Okay.
Perhaps to make another quick comment on it. So, I mean, we have benefited so many years from this Chinese model, making cost-effective modules in China and spread it out in the world. That was the machine, the renewable solar machine. But this is not working anymore as it was in the past 5 to 10 years. Because now we have countries like USA, we have countries like India, who are setting up their own manufacturing base. and especially USA, they're not welcoming Chinese players to do investment in USA. After Trump, it will be even worse. And India already have gigawatt players. And now those gigawatt players are investing like Chinese players, another 4 gigawatt, another 2 gigawatt, very quickly. So that means there's now a threat to big Asian players. What is our future? What is our stake? And I feel when I talk to them, they feel, oh, Europe. That's something which we should work on. And you see announcements from Chingo going to the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. You have already mentioned Trina with their investment that they are selecting Head-Road Junction. That's a matter of distinguishing from the Chinese export product portfolio. That's the only one. So I feel pushed by the international investor, because a lot of international investors have invested in Chinese big players. And they're saying, hey, you cannot make money anymore in China. And this model is not working anymore. So please take your money, and the next investments we want to see abroad. And the only most welcoming continent seems to be Europe. But it will not be like a standalone Chinese big factor in Europe. That also will not work. So they have to tailor up with local players, industrial players, developers to set up production capacity, Michael. That I see. It has to come. If Chinese players are not considering the past, sometimes I feel very arrogant. They say, "Oh, Europe too complicated, too expensive." No, now different, totally different. It's the only continent welcoming big Chinese players, and the European should benefit from it. So simple.
And I think that might be also getting even stronger, this tendency, because what we've seen, of course, in the US, closing the doors even tighter. So I think this little caravan moves that moved first to Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, is now moving to Indonesia. Indonesia is the new hotspot at the moment, because that's the open door to the US, as I understand. But as we all know, I think you can close also doors that are still open. And so will we see then, rather, as you said, Peter, that companies are trying to diversify into different markets? You know, there's also this example, Brazil. You know, I think when Brazil came up, and Brazil has been also quite protective, a few companies started and basically all stopped. I think there's still one company producing, that's BYD, if I'm correct, a little bit at least. And so are we seeing it's much more scattered than it was in the past? And will we see then still silicon mostly in China and wafers in China, and also the R&D maybe in China, or even also somewhat in other places, like we have still great R&D in Europe traditionally, as that also international companies utilize that and then have cell module manufacturing around the world. So how will be the business models? I think there's also the possibility, of course, that you're more integrated. Peter, you have been behind actually the only fully integrated wafer to module factory that we have in Turkey, and here in the wider European continent. So how is it panning out? What do you think? Who wants
Did I answer? I think as you already throw the ball to us, I mean, this is now the chance. This is now, Europe have been so slow. We are always so slow. We are carefully thinking and waiting and waiting. But now I think this is in the next 1, 2, 3 years. I mean, I wish that China and Europe are joining force, are really joining force. We need our European manufacturing base. That's a must. And it will be more and more imposed, because we are in this transformation industry. We need local jobs. We need local products. So and I hope this is a big chance for that China and Europe to join force, and big Chinese players, not as dominating stakeholders, are investing in Europe together with industrial players in Europe. And we are setting up a beautiful European Chinese manufacturing hub. This is my dream and my wish, and it should come, to be honest. And I will work on it, believe me, because we are late, but then we can benefit from the momentum what we currently have from Chinese players to look abroad. They looked at Saudi Arabia, Middle East, not working smoothly. They have looked India lost. They have now even invested and they sold factories. Even you saw the Trina deal. They invested and sold it again. So this is Europe. That's what should be done. I hope so much.
Rado?
Yes, completely agree. Maybe to add quickly. So if you look at China, it has been already mentioned, Europe, Indonesia, but the third thing is also MENA. They are also looking there. Of course, there are some announcements. If you look at the strategy from German side, European side, as Peter says, definitely cooperation with China. This is coming, but also cooperation with India, because now the Indian companies have one big problem. They have cell modules. What will happen with ingot wafer? The Chinese are not, let's say, eager to cooperate on this matter with Indian companies. But let's say in Europe, we still have the knowledge about crystallization, wafering. So there are worldwide alliances forming, and Europe will definitely select cooperation with India and cooperation with China on different levels.
And I think so. So the ICO Solar Lab is also a good example, actually, how it could work on the research.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's a first, at least as far as I know. I don't know anyone else is doing it like this, and that it exists somewhere else. But I think that could be a model, and we could see more of this. Or
yeah. So we are certainly would also hope that maybe we can not only be an R&D part of ICO, but maybe also bring manufacturing to Europe. But I think like it is the economical situation has also to work and has to change in our favor if this should be possible in the future.
okay, let's talk a little bit about. I want to touch briefly a little bit about economics and cost effectiveness. Also here, I think that's also important. If manufacturing also spreads out of China, there of course everything was optimized. It was super big. You had this, I don't know, sometimes 50 gigawatt plus factories. One could read about. So what can we do here, and what will we see here? I think Peter Fahrt, you have also done quite some analysis for the different regions, and actually when one looks at that, it actually doesn't look so bad, right?
Yes, I mean, if you make the cost location comparison, I mean, whatever you do, you cannot reach the numbers of Chinese cost structures. I mean, what the prices currently, what we are seeing, that are not associated to cost. I would say if you take the full supply chain into account and everybody's making a little profit in China, perhaps the Chinese module would cost 14 to 15 cents per watt peak landed cost. So that's the true cost of Chinese modules, I would say, currently. So if you can benchmark it with the same type of product made in Europe, if you just make a module factory and you source the products from China, the components from China, then you are at a delta of 1.8 to 2.2 cents per watt peak. So you can make modules at 17, 18 cents in Europe, you can make. So if you look at the full value chain, then of course it's about labor cost, automation, and energy cost. And that's something which we have to work more at legislation point of view. Do we want to benefit from our European wind, cheap wind, and green energy? And then of course we are more competitive. Of course, we cannot live with 10 cents per kilowatt hour for an integrated factory if we want to have ingot wafer cell module. But Michael, we have cost location in Europe. We have cheap, green, CO2 neutral energy. And that means we have to scatter, find a good cost location in Europe. Then we are getting more and more competitive as compared to big Asian players. So I would say if you calculate with a sharp pencil, I think the target should be about 10-15% cost difference which is on LCOE. If you look at LCOE, if you have to pay 10-15% for more for a European module, that's not taking too much difference. It's about 5% on the LCOE.
Okay.
So we have good cost location. The delta will be 10%, and that's something which we can live at this low module cost per watt peak.
And what we will obviously also see in, like we see in every market, also of course in the US and in India, they have much more. They are much more using sticks, not only carrots. They're better in using both. But of course, with the Net Zero Industry Act, the NZIA in Europe, actually there will be also some opportunities for local procurement and so on. So that means we will see actually the regions also making sure that they get simply more resilient, which obviously also makes sense in this world. And I think on the one hand, if a region is clever, it stays open on the one hand, and on the other hand makes also sure that it gets resilient. And we're seeing that obviously also in India. On the one hand, they are setting up everything. They are also making sure that the products that are produced in India are being utilized. But at the same time, of course, it's all based on, or a lot is based on Chinese equipment and materials, which is simply not available in India. So I think we will continue to work on these. So let's anyone else who wants to kind of maybe contribute to this cost comparison, or otherwise I would.
Excellent, Peter. Thank you.
Indeed, I agree. Let's maybe go once again big to technology. So to the next step, because I think it is a little bit. We also have to simply see that. I feel at least that the technology development is also a question on how the market evolves, and the other way around, the market actually will evolve depending on how technology evolves. Because of course, with a jump in technology, actually, of course, you can leave others behind who cannot really compete in the market anymore, and then have to close shops, and that will, of course, reduce overcapacities. There are other measures, I think, being discussed at the moment, but that would be for sure one. So we've learned during the conference that there are these different paths. You can go, of course, from heterojunction to back contacts. You can go from TOPCon to back contacts. You can go, and then there are different paths also to tandem, and so what. But what are we seeing? How quickly is it going? Because of course companies still have to take some money into their hand. I was still impressed when I saw the slide from Alex Barrows on the first day, where he said, okay, in 2028, if I recall it correctly, already 40% will be back contact technology, which is a much different number than most others are showing. So what are we seeing here? How quick are things moving now?
Can I say something? Yes. So exactly. I also believe that I mean, the technology switch from one to the other is going extremely quick. For my impression, it's going too quick, even if I'm an N-type believer and IBC believer. A little bit quality is lacking behind, not for the tier 1 manufacturers, definitely, but let's say for the smaller ones. So it's a rather slower switch would be nice, but this is not how it works. The customer is demanding always higher efficiencies and lower costs. And the only potential now to go to higher voltages, certainly it's the voltage that is increased, to go to double passivating contacts. And this is what ICO did. We are doing SunPower or Maxeon. TCL now is having already since a long time. So I have shown also a graph that we are still on this fast learning curve. And switching now from TOPCon in the next I think it goes 3-4 years, is increasing the efficiency further. And within these years, we will reach 1 terawatt, 2 terawatt market, and then more or less we have built up already the end capacity that we will be needing. And so there will be a switch towards back contact. And then, of course, tandem technologies, if they will come, depending on perovskite stability, reverse behavior, so many things. I believe they will be rather adapted on 3-terminal or 4-terminal, and or if, let's say, the R&D institutes really show that 2-terminal is much better, then I mean we have the capability to also do TOPCon and heterojunction still. But this is a complete different time scale.
And maybe also looking into metallization, which is a huge cost contributor on the cell side. What are we seeing there? So when we saw the leading metallization companies talk here, they said, okay, we have copper-based products in the making, but it didn't look like they can just pull it out like this. So they were rather hesitating. Are you seeing that this can also go in line?
Yeah, I mean, there are different reduction. I mean, ICO is already doing copper plating, but also, I believe also silver screen printing. But this zero busbar technology is also coming very quickly. So we have reduction in silver still, this huge potential. And I mean, we are ready to switch to copper with certain companies like Coprint and others, but I think it's let's say not ready for the mass market yet. But there will be reduction of silver, making the cells also with higher bifaciality. But I let also maybe Peter Tillmann to comment on that because he is the technologist.
Yes, so I think that the future is notoriously difficult to predict, but in the past we've seen that the technology switch was always faster than predicted in roadmaps, because once the numbers work for one company, they will also work for other companies, and all companies doing kind of similar cost and price analysis. So I think change can come much quicker than people anticipate. So for the back contact cell, I think the switch is not extremely easy because there is a lot of different or a lot of new processes that you have to have very good control over. As I said, like one of the key enabling technologies for ABC was laser patterning on the backside. I think once you have good control over it, lasers are really good because they're low in capex and low in opex. But until you have the yield under control, this can be a painful time where you pay a lot of money to get the experience. I think there we are at the quite comfortable situation that we already have the experience now and know how to make the processes work. But we know that also other companies are looking at it and investing in it. As well, one mentioned LONGi, who are also present at the Bi-Fi PV back contact workshop. They are already in the manufacturing IBC cells, and they want to switch also to back to passivated contacts. So I think they are, let's say, following our steps maybe a little bit, and also trying to bring a product to the market here.
Okay, thanks. I maybe Peter thought, so if you take that also and maybe add also this the component of IP here, because of course we move also into new technologies, and we're seeing that of course companies have gathered quite some IP because they bought it or because they filed for it, and now of course especially in this situation they are also really now filing complaints, suing each other. We haven't seen that so much, at least in the past. There was always cases, but maybe that's also the new normal. we have to maybe also understand, and of course, if you did something, you want to be rewarded for that. I feel there's one example where that nicely works at the moment, at least from the outside, it feels, where Qcells acquired a company and is licensing the LICO process now openly. So I think here there is an orderly process and everyone is kind of following that. So, but if you look at this and also take into consideration this IP issue, that would be great, Peter.
I mean, if we follow these IP fights, I mean, we had the fight with silicon nitride firing through. We had the fight with PERC, aluminum oxide passivation. We have this fight now in TopCon. Now it's total chaotic fight. I mean, as we all of us know, at the end, it will not yield to anything. It's just slowing down some investments. It's giving some uncertainty to investors. But at the end, it will not lead to anything, I believe, because IP is not as strong of any of those players to plug a competitor and not going to the risk if they plug a competitor, at the end, if they lose a legal case, they have to give a huge compensation to those players. At the end, either it will come into friendly negotiations or some license agreement. That is the most likely which will come. So I would say, again, we are giving us altogether headache. Now it's more fighting US players against Chinese players. Chinese players with some other Chinese players. So it's really annoying me a lot. If you look from a neutral perspective, I mean, if you look and you take these TopCon fights serious, which of course investors are nervous to learn about it, then of course that's a favor of back contact. Because in back contact, the IP situation might be more smooth, more in favor. For example, if you work with technology providers like ISC, you feel comfortable to do such type of investment. So that gives a momentum to the next generation of technology. If you want to get rid of this IP concern, which is in TopCon. But generally speaking, Michael, this is really, again, leading to nothing. It's just slowing down, again, our sector, and that's it. Nothing will come out at the end.
And filling the pockets of lawyers. I think this is the only thing. And so, yeah, sorry, Michael, yes.
And Peter, maybe can you build on that, actually, how you see that technology change and actually how that could also help ending the overcapacity issue that's haunting the sector. Unmute, please.
Which Peter?
Please.
Peter, I think you have to follow up.
Yes, you mean me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I confused. So I would say, as I mentioned, I mean, we have seen it in the past, Michael, in PERC. I mean, my Turkish factory, this 2.2 gigawatt factory in Turkey, exactly at the investment momentum, we had to deal with that aluminum oxide matter. And if you take precautions in your supply contract, like freedom to operate, if there's any concern, you have to close your work with your machine and technology provider. If you take precaution as a new investor, not as an existing player, as a new investment, then you can be quite safe. You have to make a legal judgment. You have to fill the pockets, of course, of some patent lawyers. And then you can find a pathway, perhaps going around something, getting freedom to operate from your machine and technology provider, having a legal report about this IP, what you're using in your new investment. And that's it.
Yeah. But maybe the other way around. So since with this overcapacity pressure that we are having at the moment, do you feel actually that a move to higher efficient new technologies actually will be not only accelerated, but will be actually helping the overcapacity?
Yes, of course.
And
this
what
is, of course.
This is, of course, a total crystal ball. That's a $1 trillion question almost. So when do you think it will be over? So when we will be back into a situation when companies can make margins?
Peter still, or can I? Or
yeah, everyone. I think that's
okay.
a final question for everyone.
Okay, so people are saying 2 years. That's a quite simple calculation because now the market is demanding 600 gigawatt, and the overcapacity is more or less 2 times or 2.5 times of that, and that will take 2 years. And coming back to your question about patents, so some rumors in China are saying that actually also the government is asking the companies to fight each other, but not harming each other. That means to show to the outside world we take patents seriously, even in China, fighting with competitors, so that actually the overcapacity will not grow too much also in other countries. So this is at least what I heard from some sources in China now.
Okay. Who else? Peter Tillmann, final words on overcapacity ending.
Yes, I think the current market situation is not pleasant for anyone on the manufacturing side of things. The PV market has been a growing market ever since it existed. So the demand is growing. There, we believe, will be a shakedown of smaller companies that will have to close down. So maybe we'll see a reduction of capacity in the coming time. And we hope that actually maybe we can already see more normalized prices in 2025.
Peter Fahrt, final words?
I mean, going back to normal, I think it has to happen 2025. I mean, at least on prices and margin and profitability, because I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, even strong players are making even 1 billion loss. I mean, it cannot continue like this. So in 2025, we will see the recovery, or few after Chinese New Year, we will see some consolidation happening. Some players will disappear and go into insolvency, because traditionally before Chinese New Year, creditors are asking for their money, and then capacity will disappear. I agree to Peter Tillmann. Perhaps 30% capacity will disappear of ineffective companies or too uncritical companies. And then in 2026, we might go back to more normal type of entrepreneurship, reasonable entrepreneurship. And I hope, Michael, my friends, this time, this is the last time where the solar orchestra is not playing a symphony, is playing a global solar disaster and a very disharmonic symphony. I think in the future, really, we should coordinate ourselves. We should avoid this stupid overcapacity. We should reduce greediness. We should reduce our appetite to make successful IPOs and just go back to normal entrepreneurship, looking at market demand, growing our capacity, following our customer requirement, and not want to always, like in solar Darwinism, the strongest will kill the rest of the dinosauria. Please, not anymore. I'm too old for this type
who
of
is
stupidity.
the director, Peter? Would you be the director of the orchestra?
Me. I hope the rationale of the solar clients and the solar market, that is the director. Please, my friends, last time, this time, please.
Okay, hope dies last, they say, but I'm with you. I would like to see that as well. Okay, thanks a lot. That was a great panel. So I think we somewhat deviated a little bit also from technology, but I think that was okay for the final panel of 4 days, where we had a lot of technology and more or less looked into almost everything you can do to optimize cells modules across the value chain. Thanks a lot once again. So just let me finalize to our panel here towards the end. That was great. I really enjoyed it. Cheered me up. And hope you too. So thanks a lot also to the audience who stayed with us over 4 days. I hope they learned a lot. I did. And I think being in solar for decades. If I learn something, then I hope others can learn too, who are not so long, because we have a lot of new people are also coming into the segment, that's into the conferences. That's great. And that's also the idea, to really educate the sector. Thanks to our sponsors, we are very grateful that companies are supporting this event, especially during this time, and that so many in the sector and all the leaders basically are supporting our educational efforts here. We have some reports actually to download. The latest one is new modules that were published. We are still aiming to come up with two more reports over the course of the year. The reports you can download all on our website for free. Again, TaiyangNews products here are for free because we want to educate the sector. That's our mission. Finally, I would want to wish you some peaceful and relaxing days. I feel it's probably busy 2 weeks for everyone to close the year, but at least over the years, I wish you with families and friends some time to relax, recharge the batteries, as Peter has said, and the others. The next year will be still a tough one for the solar sector, while we're the lowest electricity generator across the planet at most places, as Radovan has shown. There's still some challenges ahead of us. In Europe, for example, the market is growing not so much, even if it is globally growing quite a bit. Again, thanks a lot, and we are happy to see you again next year. We will come up again with an exciting program, monthly conferences, and we'll start with a market outlook in January, date to be revealed in the next few days. Thanks a lot, and have a nice day, and have a nice rest of the year, and a great start into the new one. Bye-bye.
And thank you, Michael.